Reporting to the media this week at Post-Executive Council Media Briefing is the Chief Secretary, Orville London.
The first, of course, is something about which you all are aware, that the meeting with the Ministry of National Security, that meeting had to be postponed. It's nobody's fault. Basically, the very heavy weather, inclement weather conditions would have grounded the aircraft, including the helicopter bringing the minister. We did speak, and that meeting is now rescheduled for next Friday at the same time, so that it's just a postponement of a little over a week. But next Friday we will meet, and of course we will give you some ideas to the venue, but the meeting is scheduled for 9 a.m. next Friday. And the meeting is particularly important to us in Tobago because there are a number of issues for which we would need clarification and or confirmation. Among them would be the date for the start and the completion of the police stations at Roxborough and of course at Old Grange. We need to get some finalization of the K9 unit and the accommodation for the handlers and the dogs, so as to make sure that that unit could be at full strength. We in the THA have already identified the land, and we just want some survey and lease issues that have to be resolved. The statement of recruitment for the Special Reserve Police Officers for the Tobago House of Assembly, as you're aware, this is something that was agreed upon at our last meeting. I know that there has been some recruitment taking place, but we haven't got the finalization of that, so we need clarification on that. Earlier this year, we would have got documentation on the implementation of the Tobago-oriented policing and the Special Tobago Security Plan. And of course, we will want to know about the actual operationalizing of those two initiatives. And there's some issues with equipment and manpower needs for the Coast Guard and the police, especially the suitability of the kind of vessels under the auspices of the Coast Guard, and whether they are in fact ideal for the very important role which the Coast Guard has to play. And another issue that is of particular importance to us is the security, especially on the Sea Bridge. I think we're all aware that the situation on the Sea Bridge is quite unsatisfactory with respect to the level of security, and that is another issue because, you know, at these meetings there'll be representation from the Port Authority, and in order for us to have a comfort level, there must be some degree of collaboration and synergy between what is being done by the police and what is being done by on the Sea Bridge. And of course, the Tobago Police Bill, that is another issue where we need some clarification. So these are among some of the issues which hopefully after our meeting next Friday, as you know, this is the second postponement, but I want to just reiterate, it was nobody's fault. And we're really hoping that nothing happens to prevent us from meeting with the representative of national security, because all the arms of the national security would be represented. I think the contingent for today's meeting was well over 20 people, somewhere in the vicinity of 27 persons. So if we get that same kind of response, we should be able to treat with most of the major issues. I just want to remind us, I hope it's a reminder, that the issue for the self-government for Tobago reaches a very critical phase on Sunday, the 14th of September, at the Signal Hill Senior Comprehensive School. In fact, we are calling it decision time, because what has happened is that we've had close to 6 months of discussion in Tobago and in Trinidad, discussion with the various sectors, discussions with the communities. We've been to Trinidad. And I think by now we have a pretty clear idea as to what Tobagonians want. And on Sunday the 14th, what we will be doing is to have those persons who are at that forum confirm, one, what Tobagonians want, and confirm the way forward as we decide how are we going to translate those demands into the kind of process that will allow the 4-decade-old struggle to reach some level of fruition. And, you know, I was in a discussion with some young footballers late yesterday evening, and the question of Tobago self-government came up. And I realized that there is still some misunderstanding, even among Tobagonians, as to what self-government is. Because there were concerns raised by a couple of the young men that we were talking secession. I want to reiterate. The self-government of which we speak has nothing to do with secession. Nowhere did we get any concerted response from Tobagonians advocating secession. What we're talking about is that and as I've said in my independence address, that the sovereign democratic state of Trinidad and Tobago must remain inviolate and united. But in that sovereign state, the people of Tobago must have the right to self-determination. And you know, what I told the young men last night, and I want to tell the people of Tobago, it's something like a family. If you have a family, and your name is London, and you've reached the stage of maturity, and your father gives you a piece of land, you still want to maintain the London family name. But your father mustn't tell you, because he gave you the piece of land and you're living on it, that how to cut your hair, or who to marry, or whether to buy a car or a motorbike, as the case may be. So what we in Tobago was saying, we want to remain part of the Trinidad and Tobago family. But we've now reached a level of maturity as a people where we should, in fact, be given the authority to determine what happens in our own space. We'll make mistakes, but they'll be our mistakes. And therefore, I just want to maybe utilize, a statement that was made by Mr. Robinson, not exactly, but self-government, as far as I'm concerned, is not secession. It is the decisions and actions regarding Tobago's future that they must be taken in Tobago. And that, to me, sums it all up. So I just want to send the signal very loud and clear that we need to come to that session at Signal Hill on Sunday the 14th, where we can treat with any misconception, confirm what we really want, and then, of course, decide on how do we operationalize those demands. The question of the air bridge and the sea bridge, those questions continue to trouble us. The Secretary of Tourism, Deputy Chief Secretary Tracy Davis and Celestine, would have led a team to meet with Mr. Michael DeLolo, the Chief Executive Officer of Caribbean Airlines. And she has indicated to me, and of course sent the correspondence, where after the meeting, she would have received a letter from Mr. DeLolo confirming the decisions that were reached at that meeting. And the letter does give us some hope, because the situation has to be rectified. It cannot continue. The level of unpredictability, the degree of frustration, the anger that were evident on the air bridge during the last couple of months, that cannot be sustained, or that should not be sustained, and it should not be repeated. So I just want to share with you a couple of the points raised by Mr. Dilolo, which we find particularly encouraging. He spoke about CAL will make the necessary arrangements to ensure participation in the Transportation Committee. It will ensure that we have active participation in our monthly stakeholders meetings. We acknowledge the importance of incorporating a member of the THA, Mr. Wilson, in CAL's task force, which is working on improving the level of coverage and service provided to Tobago via the air bridge. And lastly, I look forward to working with representatives of the tourism boards and committees to identify potential opportunities between CAL and the THA in promoting tourism. Now, of course, what you're talking about there is intent. In other words, there seems to be an intent that the Tobago House of Assembly and Caribbean Airlines should have meaningful discussions which will lead to some kind of changes which will improve the situation. I do not know, I cannot say what is going to be the effect of all of this, but at least the communication has started, and there is a realization coming from based on this correspondence. There's a realization by Caribbean Airlines that there are certain decisions for which there should be an input from the Tobago House of Assembly, and there should be meaningful communication if we are going to come up with a solution which is mutually acceptable. So this is the present situation. The situation, however, on the Sea Bridge is one, and I want to repeat this, where decisions on the Sea Bridge, decisions made by the Port Authority, are made without any input whatsoever from the Tobago House of Assembly. This is the first time in the history of the Port Authority for very, 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 very many years that a Port Authority board is functioning without representation from the Tobago House of Assembly, and it has been doing so for a considerable period. And I'm not speaking here in a political, from a political perspective. I'm speaking from an administrative perspective. That if we have a Tobago House of Assembly which is making decisions which will obviously impact on what is happening on the port or on the Sea Bridge, and the Port Authority is making decisions which also will have impact on what is happening on the Sea Bridge, and there's no collaboration between them, we are going to find that we're going to get the kind of disconnect which leads to the kind of challenges which we have. And therefore, I am repeating my request for representation of the THA on the boards of the Port Authority and the Caribbean Airline. It is only, it's one of the things that makes sense. It has nothing to do with politics or who in charge in Tobago or who in charge at the central government level. It has to do with a situation where we have two organizations, both of which are involved in doing things that impact on these entities. And if the two organizations are not allowed to be able to sit around a table and discuss day-to-day decisions, we are going to have problems. And I just want to reiterate that. School has opened. I think I must commend the division. Normally, I know when school opens, you write your headlines and then fit in the school. X number of schools did not open, right? I would have loved to see no school remained unopened, but we didn't have an issue with the Pentecostal Light and Life. I just spoke to the secretary. They're meeting tomorrow, the division on Pentecostal Light and Life, so to get the issue, any outstanding issues clarified, but he's indicating that based on the evaluation coming from his people, that the construction or the refurbishment works have been completed or will be completed by later today, and the whole question of the furnishings and so on, that barring unforeseen circumstances, he doesn't see any reason why this cannot be completed by Friday so as to ensure that school starts. So that is the present situation. Quite a lot of work went into the process, and I'm really hoping that during the course of the year the kind of regular maintenance is such that it would not entail that significant expenditure and work during the holiday period. I think what we got to look at is to have the kind of maintenance system that prevents us from having to go into these major refurbishment works, which take a lot of time and cost a lot of money, and sometimes serious disruption during the course of the year. And finally, Monday is budget day. And as everybody else, the Tobago House of Assembly will have its expectations, and the people of Tobago will have their expectations. And I want to just indicate that from where we sit in the Tobago House of Assembly, we will evaluate the budget from two perspectives. Obviously, we'll evaluate the budget from the perspective of the overall allocation. We are hoping that this year that the allocation is not based on a desire not to break the law. For very many years, under all administrations, the allocation to Tobago is based primarily on the desire of the particular central government not to break the law. Because the law says that Tobago must get between 4.03 to 6.9%. So if you give us less than 4.03, you break the law. So we invariably get from 4.03. I'm hoping that the situation will be improved slightly, at least this year. But it's not just about the allocation, it's also about opportunities for development. And I'm hoping that there's among the areas with which the Minister of Finance will deal would be a stated support for the Tobago House of Assembly in its efforts to access the requisite funding for its development projects, because we know that whatsoever is allocated will not be sufficient to give us the kind of leverage to ensure that our development projects are completed. So that we expect that there will be support for the public-private partnership program, which of course the minister has embraced at the national level. And in our discussions, he has not shown any great objection to it being done by the Tobago House of Assembly. So that we expect that for many of our major projects, you've already put on the table that the housing development at Shervan, and that is going to be done using the PPP model. And there are other major initiatives, construction of schools and public buildings and so on, that have to be, if they are to be done at all, but that we'll have to use that model. We expect some state support for the tourism sector, and therefore among the issues which we expect the minister to deal with be the airport at A&R Robinson Airport, which should not be just cosmetic and minimal improvements, but a stated and confirmed and supported initiative to guarantee the kind of upgrade of the Arthur N.R. Robinson Airport that will allow us to be more competitive. And the state of the airport at the Arthur N.R. Robinson Airport has made us highly uncompetitive when you compare us even to the smaller of our competitors in the Caribbean, and those that have not yet had superior airports, they already have plans afoot to improve. Even the islands, where the economy is in straitened circumstances, these islands understand the importance of having an airport if they're going to improve their economic situation, and they're willing to make the investment. So we're hoping that we're going to see that. Of course, we're talking about, a change in the mindset of Cali, if you want to put it like that, which will a recognition that the Caribbean Airlines has a significant role to play in ensuring that our domestic air bridge run more effectively. And remember that if the domestic air bridge does not run effectively, there is going to be some kind of effect on the tourism sector. In fact, what they have told me in the tourism sector is that we are not attracting the upper echelons of the tourism market coming from Trinidad, because somebody who can afford it is not going to put himself or herself and or family through the rigors of going to the airport and not knowing when you're leaving, not knowing when you're coming back. When the same Caribbean airline can carry you to one of the islands or to Miami or somewhere, and you just sit down on your computer and you work it out. And because of this, many of the high spenders prefer to spend their money where they're going to get the kind of comfort and the kind of predictability that will ensure an enjoyable holiday. And I'm saying that if we regularize the Caribbean airline presence in Tobago and bring more predictability and efficiency to the service, it is going to redound to the benefit of the tourism sector. The government loan guarantee program, which was announced in the last budget and which has not yet been instituted in such a way that it has had the desired effect. We are expecting that program, that we'll get some more clarification on that. Incentives for the development of Cove as we continue the efforts to diversify the economy. I know that crime is going to, or national security is going to get a significant slice of the budget, and we expect that there will be a special emphasis on the Tobago aspect of it, because I indicated that except we see that Tobago cannot be treated as an appendage of Trinidad with respect to crime fighting strategies, and that you must have a situation where Tobago is seen as different challenges, different opportunities, and therefore requiring a different approach, and therefore the funding and the strategizing has to be done in a particular way. Special emphasis on the need to support home construction or settlement in Tobago. Over the years, we have not been in a position where we have received any kind of financial support from the central government, any central government, geared towards providing houses for people in Tobago. I make the point consistently, every single house that has been built in Tobago has been built with cash and has been built with savings. Most of it been savings, because the funding for settlement is so minuscule that what we have to do is to save money from 1 year and put it with the money that we get the next year so that we're able to finance the houses. So whereas at the national level, housing is normally financed through loans and through bonds, etc., in the case of Tobago, that is not happening. And that, of course, stymies our efforts to be able to construct houses at the rate which will make a serious dent in the demand. And, of course, some focus on human capital development. I think you remember last year in our program, the program that we used to fund the tertiary level education, where we had requested, I think it was either $6 or $8 million, we were given the princely sum of $200,000. And that, so we're hoping that they're going to be more sensitive to the needs of the people of Tobago and the desire for us to ensure that our human capital development programs are instituted. So as we had a discussion with the minister, I think it was a good discussion. I think he seemed to understand where we're coming from, recognize that we're quite reasonable, and therefore we do not expect that there will be allocations to take care of all our needs, but that it's a combination of the allocation and the opportunities for development. We are going to recommit that when the Tobago allocation and the plans for Tobago are revealed in the budget, that we will then again make a presentation to the people of Tobago as to what we intend to do now that we are certain as to the level of financing that is available.
Are you expecting the full 5.8 total for the budget?
Based on what has happened in the past, it is not likely that we're going to get what was requested, based on what has happened in the past. And as I said, I am aware of, and I've got to be practical because I am also in a managing position. I'm aware of the demands made on any Minister of Finance coming from various ministries and units. And I don't think there is any ministry or any unit that is going to get all that it is required. And that is why I'm making the point that it is not primary, well, I won't say primary, it's not only about the quantum of the allocation, it is about the opportunities that you give us in Tobago to do what is necessary for our own development.
With regards to the request not actually coming through as the THA would want from central government with regards to the quantity or the amount, would you think, or in any way, seeing that there's been a history, of course, with let's say, inefficient spending with regards to government funding in or by the THA, you think that has placed some influence on what is being given through the budget to Tobago?
Inefficient funding is one of those general statements that really cannot be accepted, but do have some credence. In other words, there is no situation with any government in the world that will spend every cent as efficiently as it should, or it could, sorry. In the case of the Tobago House of Assembly, there are situations where, in hindsight, the money might have been more efficiently spent. Some of the money. But the point about it is that I am confident that in the Tobago context, the vast percentage of the funding that was allocated to us has in fact been expended in a way with which we are comfortable and which would have accrued to the benefit of the people of Tobago. To answer the second part of your question, I don't think that there is any evidence before the Minister of Finance that would give him any reason to relate the amount of money given to Tobago to any perceived inefficiency in how the money is being spent. I don't think so, and nothing in our discussion with the Minister and his team would have given rise to that kind of conclusion.
Thank you for tuning in to another Tobago House of Assembly's Post-Executive Council media briefing for the week ending September 6th, 2014.